from my book, A Beauty for a Duke, the Dukes for Christmas series. Chapter 1, 1816, England. Just one more chapter. She had to finish just one more chapter. It could easily be done before Sophie, drawled her curvy and heavy-bosomed friend Fia. Since childhood, the two had been inseparable. What more did they need than for their names to complete each other? Sophie and Fia, together since 6. Or was it 5? It was all the same. They had so many shared memories together that if one forgot, the other was likely to remember. Though, if the truth were being told, and it usually was among the two of them, Fia was the one with the better memory for events, and Sophie was more dependable for remembering ideas and making plans. Or, more accurately, roping the two of them into haphazardly constructed plans, which was exactly how the two had met. It was Sophie's first time going out alone to buy bread for the day. Her father had finally allowed her that small amount of freedom, so she skipped all the way there. Done! Sophie placed her paper rose bookmark in between the pages and pushed the book into the large pocket in her frock. To be sure Sophie didn't pull a fast one, Fia threaded her arm through Sophie's and coaxed her back to work. Sophie entered the chaos grateful for the work she had. Being in Derbyshire near the Duke of Somersby estate, despite its small size, the public house had the pleasure of serving many a patron from England and beyond. Perhaps not now that Christmas Eve was fast approaching. Everyone would be tucked away in their warm homes, sidling up to fires and roasting treats. If not now, then at least within the next week, which meant that within the next 7 days, her friend Adeline, lady's maid to the Duchess of Somersby, would soon pay her and Fia a visit. She usually had a frock or two for each of them that were only a couple of years out of fashion. Fashion didn't matter much to Sophie, though Fia might let a few complaints grumble out of her. They weren't complaints so much as observations, or so Fia always reminded her. Sophie, glad you could make an appearance. Her father's eyes shone brightly at her. He was truly the most perfect father she could have ever asked for. Even after her mother had passed away, in spite of his grief, he had done his utmost to run the tavern and take care of Sophie the best way he knew how. In fact, there were several ways they honored her mother, Layla, including the placement of a few roses on the walls and in the guest rooms. The red rose was her mother's favorite. I'm here for you, Papa. Sophie patted her father's hand and took notice of the extra wrinkles. He had been working a long time at his dream of running the tavern. She only wished he needn't work quite so hard. The tavern was his life, but she wished it didn't have to be his lifeline. That's why, for the last few years, she had convinced him to give her some of their profits to invest. And so far, she had earned more money than she had lost. Of course, she had to do some wrangling with solicitors and her father any time she wanted to make any changes, but that little hindrance didn't stop Sophie on her quest. It only precipitated more dreams of the day she could have her own bank account and her own full control of her money. As it so happened, this dream was one of the reasons she didn't want to marry, despite having received several offers over the years. Also, every marriage proposal thus far had been prefaced with something akin to, "In light of your great beauty," etc., etc., "will you marry me?" She did not want to be someone's trophy, nor did she want to be anyone's property. In the event she did marry, any authority she might have gained would then transfer over to her husband, and she did not want to have to ask her husband to sign off on every financial decision she made. And equal to the point, she was more than the beauty men whispered or spoke loudly about. She prided herself, though not overly, on her intelligence. Having spent all her spare time and some working hours reading all that she could about investments, it was not a pride without foundation. Besides books, if there were any conversations about interest and profit that she could glean wisdom from, she took the time to serve those tables with extra care. And there were a few patrons who would come in from time to time, reliably, with interest-full conversations. Lord Reginald was not one of those few, but if he was ever in attendance with the Colonel or any of his Duke friends, Sophie served them well. And aside from a recent but small incident with Lord Reginald and his friend, the newest Duke of Beaufort, every encounter so far had been well received. And so it was that if ever a new patron came in talking of investments, Sophie and Fia confirmed with their eyes who would take the table. Because if Sophie could invest and save enough money, she would not only help her father, but of course her best friend as well. Now, if only she could find a way to attend the railway convention happening tomorrow. But that felt like more of a castle in the air dream than a simple castle in the air itself. Besides the fact that the logistics were a nightmare, there was also the question of how her father would manage in her absence. How would she travel there? How would she gain entrance? Who would go with her? And how would she pay for it? No, it was not meant to be. Castles did not exist in the air, and taverns' daughters did not attend annual railway conventions.